Okay, so I'm gonna go over some details on the SPF algorithm with OSPF and also the LSA types and stub configuration. Right here, this is my lab here, and how I have it configured is that these routers in the middle are the backbone OSPF area 0, and then these outer routers are in different areas. This one's in area 2, this one's in area 1 right here. Um, this has a stub configuration. So the whole point of this is basically just to go over some details. There's some things that I was confused about as far as like the stub configuration, the difference between a stub and an NSSA, and I just wanted to break it down um, for everyone and just simplify the whole thing between a stub and an SSA. And there really truthfully isn't a difference between the two. There's like a major difference between NSSA and stub. The only difference is where NSSA allows you to create redistribution networks and subnets inside of the area. That's really it. It all has to deal with NSSA. Once you understand like stub, then all you have to do is say to yourself, okay, well, NSSA allows you just to create those networks that have been redistributed into that area itself. Like, so this one here is area 1. So if I have NSSA inside of it, if I configure that, then I know on these two routers I can redistribute, or this one I can redistribute networks inside of it, and it'll work inside of this router here. They'll be changed to LSA 7s, and then router 4 here, because this connects to area 0. Router 4 will automatically convert those LSA 7s to LSA 5s. But I mean, just to understand like the stub configuration, there's no major differences between stub and NSSA. But the only difference, minor difference, is that okay, with NSSA, that just means that one day or that day, I can allow networks that have been redistributed into OSPF inside of it's only inside of this area now. So if there was a network that was redistributed outside of the area configured for NSSA, then you won't see it. You won't see it. Okay, so there's like basically no difference between those two. So to break it down, the stub configuration is like when you configure a stub, either stub or NSSA, you're not going to allow, the bottom line is that you will never allow routes that have been redistributed into OSPF in other areas inside of the area config for stub or NSSA. It's just not going to happen. It's going to definitely block it for anything you do. So it's not going to allow any networks redistributed into OSPF to go into your area configured for NSSA or stub. That's out of the question. The only question is, do you want to allow routes from other areas or not into your routers configured for stub or NSSA? That's the only question. It's like, do you want if there's an area 0 or area this area is 2 over here. Do I want to allow these networks inside of my area? If you do want to allow subnets from other areas inside of it, then you don't want to add in the no summary tag. You don't want to allow that. You want to just configure either area 1 stub or area 1 NSSA, and that's just going to block subnets from other areas. And then I'm sorry, it's going to allow. Sorry, I get the background. So basically, if you put in there um, area 1 stub here or area 1 NSSA, then it will allow subnets from other areas. But if you add no summary, then it's just going to block all the LSA 3s, which are subnets from other areas. So it's like that's basically the only difference between the two. So if you just understand that, then you can kind of fill in the blanks, man, and it's all just a matter of just understanding those three differences between the no summary tag and not having the no summary tag, and then the difference between stub and NSA, which is we're just talking about whether you want to allow networks that have been redistributed into OSPF in that area. So there's three major differences, and that's how you can break it down. I've made a table, a very simple table, and it just goes over those three things. And I mean, there's other details in it, you know, but that's the bottom line. And then I guess another angle that you could use to kind of understand the stub configuration is that unlike EIGRP stub configuration, when you do that, the networks that are within the stub don't affect the networks that are outside, the routers that are outside that stub configuration with EIGRP and stuff. So that's a different. But for OSPF, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like if you configure this as a stub or these stubs, and a link goes down, an LSA will be broadcasted out, will flood out these other routers, these other networks. It'll still go out, but these other routers that are outside of its area won't rerun the entire SPF algorithm. It won't run it. It'll just update the metric or say that these networks here don't exist. It'll just update it here. Now, if basically if you're doing like the stub configuration, or just if you have subnets that are broadcast in other areas, yeah, it won't rerun the SPF algorithm. But if you're inside of that area and a link goes down, then the SPF algorithm will rerun basically. So, and that's different between EIGRP, right? Because EIGRP, the entire like if a link goes down and you're in your router within a stub, then that you won't affect routes outside the stub, and then vice versa. It just doesn't send an update back and forth between. So there's a difference between the stub configuration between EIGRP and OSPF there, but it's not like you could configure stubs for, like, let's say in the real world, like CPE devices, configure stubs in thinking that when a link goes down, it won't affect at all in any way other routers outside the networks. That's not how OSPF works. It definitely will it'll send updates to other routers and stuff like that, letting them know. It's just we're talking about the CPU being utilized or not. So I'm gonna go into like a short demonstration here, and then so like right now in router 4, we take a look at it. I have area 1, which is connected to the backbone. So this is my area 1 here, and then, or like I said, this is my backbone, and I have it configured for just NSSA. So that means when I look in here, I should see networks from other areas, but nothing else that's been like redistributed into OSPF, unless I'm redistributing networks inside of this area over here. So show IP OSPF database, and then I see a bunch of stuff. But if you look at it, it makes sense like this. So if you look at it, this is my area 1 and area 1, area 1. But I do see these are LSA 3s, right? So this is from other areas, as I would expect it. and then this is the internal, the intra area networks. This is the inter area networks, and I am redistributing one route within OSPF within area 1, and that's the thing, and it's coming from router. It's advertised from router 12. So over here, I can do that. But if I change it, if I come over here and say area 1, OSPF 1, and then say area 1, and it's to say no summary. If I change it, and go into here, summary, and then now if I go back to router 4, this is what you're going to see. The difference now is that I won't see this. I won't see. Well, actually, no. I'll still see this in here, but the only difference, and I'll pull this up. I'm gonna pull this up so we can see. Let's take a look at this. So the only difference, I'll still see all this as area 0, so this won't change. But I guarantee you that I won't see actually this is before. Okay, so it's already changed. So this is before. Okay. So basically, yeah, okay, so this is before I made the change to no summary. Let me go find it. Okay. Okay, here it is here. So this is before, and then this is after. So we look at area 1 summary, and area 1 summary. This is here because I'm using, it's because that it originates a default route, unless I did that intentionally. Let me see. OSPF. Yeah, so I'm originating a default route. So this is here only because I have this command here. Otherwise, you wouldn't see any LSA 3s. But this is originating it to all the routers inside the area 1. Anyway, so the difference, like I said, is that the only difference between NSSA and NSSA no summary, or NSSA and totally NSSA, is that whether you want to see subnets from other areas or not. Correct. So whether you want to see, all this disappeared, basically. All that stuff disappeared. And that goes the same for stub and also NSSA. Is whether when you add that no summary command, it's just saying remove all this stuff here. Remove all these other networks. Okay. So, and then, but I still have LSA 7. So I still have LSA 7. But if I switch that, now I can, like I said, that there's three differences, and the two, or number two, the second difference is whether you want to see routes from other areas, which I've showed you. You know, I added a no summary keyword, and then it removed all those subnets from other areas, and then I'm going to make another change, and now the only difference is what you're going to see from this is that LSA 7 is going to disappear. So I'm just going to make this an area 1 stub, no summary, and the only difference is that this is going to disappear here, because you can't add LSA 7s inside of its own area, basically. So no area 1, and let's just say area 1 stub, no summary, and going to 8. And then same thing here. Stub. So we go back over here, and then show. Let's get some real estate. Well, like I said, everything is gonna appear the exact same, with the difference is that your type 7, this is gonna disappear. And like I said, and with the stub, you don't need, when you're adding the stub configuration, just stub, you don't need to add that origination option, because for stub it but the bottom line is, like I said, the only difference is that LSA 7 will not appear. So there's only a few differences between those stub configurations, and then once you understand that, you kind of understand. I mean, I was getting confused for a while, like knowing the details of it, and but once you like find the details, or find the key differences, then you kind of understand how it works. And then I guess to really understand how it affects OSPF as a whole, like I said, unlike EIGRP, when you're configuring that stub configuration, OSPF is still gonna advertise whether a link went down, or a network is not there, or a network change. It's still gonna advertise that, but it won't run the SPF algorithm. So I'll show that really quick. So basically, on router 12, I will shut down a link to illustrate something went wrong on the network, a link failure or something like that. But it's not like when you configure stub, that you're thinking like, oh, okay, this little network won't affect in any way other areas and other buildings and stuff like that. That's not how it works. It's still going to broadcast those that information out throughout the network. So this here is a router in area 0, and area 0 here, the backbone. But then you have router 12, which is in area 1. Down here is area 1. And I'll shut that link down. This is area 1, so I'll shut its link down. Before I do that, I'm going to run Wireshark and have it monitor the port facing router 3 here. And if you look, On router 3, SPF is ran 9 times. So its algorithms ran 9 times. So the only thing that you'll notice that there's a difference. The only thing that's a difference is that when I shut down that port on router 12, the SPF won't rerun this algorithm. It won't increment. This router will not increment, but it will forget and remove this network 10.200.10.0. It's not going to have that in there, and that should be an LSA type 5, or actually no, that's going to be an LSA type 3, a summary. So database. So yeah, this one here, this is type 3 from a different area, from OS area 0. This is another area, this is a type 3. So basically, this will get removed, but the SPF algorithm won't run. And this is like, I'm just saying this because this is the key differences between EIGRP and OSPF and how it affects the network that I think there's no demonstration out there on the internet on how the stuff actually works in real time. So when we come over to router 12, shut that port down. That port is shut down, and we'll wait for that LSA, that update packet. That update packet is there. It acknowledges that update. And if we look at router 3 again, or we look at the database, it's still in there now. 200. Actually, to get that to disappear entirely, probably have to shut down this link. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to shut down that link, and that link is shut down. And if we come over to router 3, the LSA age is changed, and that network is no longer in OSPF. It's been removed, but we've made 2 changes, 2 link failures. And the key difference is that it's still at 9. The SPF hasn't reran. So those updates will come in, and it won't rerun the SPF algorithm again. But if I go into router 1, which is inside of its own, router 1 is within the same area as router 3 over here. And if I shut down a link, 4, I'm sorry, router 4, I'll shut down the link. I'll just shut down the link in area 0. If we come over to here, you see, so that's really so all we're talking about with other areas or the stub configuration is that the stub configuration isn't going to, it's not like configuring it's going to prevent a bunch of LSAs from flooding the other areas. No, that's not going to work like that. It's going to operate the same thing, and as it did with or without the stub configuration. And to the benefit of configuring other areas, from one perspective, is that is like a CPU intensive situation. You know, you got a small router and you just don't want it to constantly peg the CPU each time something changes on the network, and that's really what the differences are when you're looking at it from that perspective of like trying to limit the amount of LSAs and how it floods the networks. Now, when you do configure the stub configuration within an area, router 4 sends out the updates. So these other routers within that area, they don't send out the updates. So it sends almost like a summary out LSA. So that's another way of like limiting the amount of updates that flood out the router. You know, you have your main router, your area border router, and it does the updates for everyone else. So that's a key benefit there. So just getting into the hairs and the needles of OSPF and its SPF algorithm, and just trying to go over it as much as detail as possible. Like in the book here, I mean, there's a lot of things to configure within OSPF, but this is just a few things specifically on the stub configuration, LSAs, SPF, and I'll be making more videos just going over key details within the configurations that's confused me in the past, and hopefully this will help someone else out in the future. All right, thanks for watching.